One of the most famous and admired women of the 20th century was Grace Kelly. In the 1950s, she rose to fame in Hollywood, appearing in many films and movies, and she was a symbol of elegance, beauty, and sophistication. But she did not always remain inside of Hollywood, and in 1956 she married Prince Rainier III of Monaco. With this, she left her career in the films behind her and became Princess Grace of Monaco. Her life to many appeared like a fairy tale that most girls would dream of, but it came crashing down in a horrific tragedy. On the September 14th, 1982, Grace Kelly died in a car accident in Monaco, and her death shocked the world and left a lasting mark on Hollywood, but also on European monarchy. At her funeral, the decision was made for her to have an open casket and coffin. But why was this done, and what happened with her burial? To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. Before looking at the events surrounding her death, it is important to understand who Grace Kelly was and why her passing captured so much attention. Grace Patricia Kelly was born on November 12, 1929 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, into a wealthy and well-connected family. Her father was an Olympic gold medalist and successful businessman, and her mother had once been a model and a teacher. Grace attended the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York, and by the early 1950s she was beginning to make a name for herself in Hollywood. She quickly became one of the most recognizable actresses of her generation. Her cool, poised beauty made her a favourite of director Alfred Hitchcock, who cast her in 3 of his films: Dial M for Murder in 1954, Rear Window in 1954, and To Catch a Thief in 1955. And in 1955, Grace won the Academy Award for Best Actress for her role in The Country Girl. At the height of her career, she was adored by audiences around the world, but Grace shocked Hollywood when she chose to leave acting behind to marry Prince Rainier III of Monaco. Their wedding in April of 1956 was an event followed by millions, one of the first royal weddings to be broadcast internationally, and Grace became Her Serene Highness Princess Grace of Monaco, exchanging the glitz of Hollywood for the responsibilities of royal life. Grace Kelly adjusted to her new life with grace, though it was not always easy. The tiny Principality of Monaco relied heavily on tourism, and Grace's presence as a glamorous princess brought worldwide attention to the country. She and Rainier had 3 children: Princess Caroline, born in 1957, Prince Albert, born in 1958, and Princess Stephanie, born in 1965. Although she missed acting, Grace found fulfillment in her family and charitable work. She became involved in cultural projects, founded organisations for children, and promoted the arts. To the public, she seemed to be living the perfect life, a Hollywood star who became a real princess. Yet, behind the palace walls, her life was not without difficulties. The marriage had its strains, and Grace sometimes longed for her old career, but still, she remained a beloved figure, admired worldwide for her elegance and kindness. On September 13th, 1982, Princess Grace set out on a drive with her youngest daughter, Princess Stephanie. They were travelling from their country home in Roc Agel, high in the mountains above Monaco, back to the palace. Grace was behind the wheel of their British Rover P6 3500 car. The road from Roc Agel was narrow and winding, with steep cliffs along the way, and around 10 a.m. as they descended, something went terribly wrong. The car missed a bend, crashed through a barrier, and tumbled down a 120-foot slope. The vehicle came to a rest in a garden below. Rescuers rushed to the scene, and both Grace and Stephanie were pulled from the wreckage. Stephanie, then just 17 years old, suffered a fractured collarbone and bruises, but she survived. Grace, however, was critically injured, and she suffered serious head and chest injuries. She was rushed to Monaco's hospital, where doctors fought to save her. She remained unconscious throughout the night. The following day, September 14th, 1982, Princess Grace of Monaco was pronounced dead at the age of 52. The suddenness of Grace Kelly's death left many questions. How could such a careful and dignified woman have lost control of her car? At first there was speculation about mechanical failure, but investigation showed the car was in working order, and later doctors revealed that Grace had likely suffered a minor stroke whilst driving, which caused her to lose control. This would explain why the car failed to make the bend and why she did not attempt to brake in time. Princess Stephanie herself has rarely spoken about the accident, but for years rumours circulated she might have been the one driving. The palace and Stephanie both denied this. Most historians and biographers now accept that Grace was at the wheel when tragedy struck. Before her burial, the body of Grace was left to lay in state, and it was left inside of an open coffin inside the Ardent Chapel in Grimaldi Palace, which had been her home for over 2 decades. She was dressed in the coffin in a high-necked white lace dress and laid on a quilt of orchids. The coffin was covered in white material, and her body was prepared well by the royal embalmers to ensure that her beauty was captured. She looked sleeping inside of the coffin, and her hands were clasped in front of her. It's believed that around 26,000 people passed by her coffin, which was open, and they paid their respects to her. She was transported to her funeral on a cortege led by her husband and her children through the streets of Monaco to the cathedral. Her youngest daughter was too ill to attend as she was recovering from the crash, and it was a very religious ceremony. And some very famous people were there, including Princess Diana, the Princess of Wales, and the wives of many other European and world leaders. Some of Hollywood's finest actresses and most famous celebrities were also in attendance. She was laid to rest in the Grimaldi family crypt inside the cathedral. Prince Rainier, who had shared 26 years of marriage with Grace, was visibly devastated. He never remarried, and when he died in 2005, he was buried beside her. Grace Kelly's death marked the end of a remarkable life story that seemed lifted from a fairy tale. She was a woman who achieved fame, wealth, and royalty, but who remained admired for her dignity and humanity. Her death at just 52 years old left the world wondering what more she might have achieved had she lived. Yet her legacy continued through her children, particularly Prince Albert II, who became the ruler of Monaco in 2005. Today, Grace Kelly is remembered in both Monaco and Hollywood. The Princess Grace Foundation, established in her memory, continues to support the arts and young artists, and in Monaco her presence is still felt in cultural life, in gardens and institutions named after her. The death of Grace Kelly was one of the great tragedies of the late 20th century. Her story combined Hollywood glamour, royal responsibility, and human vulnerability. A stroke whilst driving on a winding mountain road ended her life suddenly, leaving the world to grieve a woman who had seemed larger than life. Grace Kelly's passing showed that even those who seem to live fairy tales are not spared from tragedy. Yet in death, as in life, she remained a symbol of elegance and grace. Her films, her charitable work, and her legacy as Princess of Monaco ensure that she is remembered not only for the way that she died, but for the extraordinary way that she lived. Thank you for watching, and to support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. And once again, thank you so much for watching.